Wants to know how to sell their home as fast as possible. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming. Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same. It is a massive mistake, and it's a mistake that will cost you money, not the agents. Your clients are free to just walk away.
All our clients tonight could watch this and say, take my house off the market.
You need to find the least terrible estate agent. But here's my advice on how to price when you're renegotiating. There's nothing else you need. If you've got this 150 quid, that's it, you can move in.
Oh, right. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Charlie Lambden. Welcome to another live stream with Moving Home with Charlie, where it is my mission to help everyone whose life is depending on the ability for people to move house. So whether you are a buyer or a seller or an estate agent, I'm here to help moves happen, because unless moves happen, none of you get what you want. Now, I think frustration is probably the best word to describe what people are feeling about trying to move house now, not only movers, but agents as well. And today, the news has just proved how unhelpful it can be. I'm going to go into this in some detail, but to begin with, I want to just quickly sort of run through the headlines of this evening's live stream for those of you who haven't got time to watch all of it. And don't forget, I'm also publishing this on an audio podcast straight after the live stream. So if you want to catch the rest of it on audio, you can after the end of this live stream. But for those of you tearing your hair out, I hope by the end of this live stream, you will be equipped with a bit of information and insight that will help you stop tearing out your hair, both movers and agents alike. And I hate to say it to those of you who fall into this category tonight, but the root cause of the frustration at the moment is unrealistic price expectations by sellers. Some sellers, not all, right? So it is the unrealistic sellers who are causing the logjam. And you might argue that, oh, hang on, who says that they're wrong? Maybe the buyers are wrong. The buyers are paying more. I'll explain all the reasons why I don't think so. I think the buyers are right and the unrealistic sellers are wrong. And agents are actually suffering more than anyone in the midst of all of this. So today, the Office for National Statistics published their house price index for November 2022. We are now in the middle of January 2023, so for 2 months ago. And the headline is that year on year house prices to November last year were up 10.3%. If you're watching on YouTube, all the links to everything I'm talking about are there. If you want to find the links, you've got to go find this live stream on YouTube, and all the links are underneath it. So for year on year, but as I was saying back in the summer last year, back in the summer of 2022, if the market direction has changed, year on year figures become completely meaningless, because your year on year figures can be showing an increase when month on month things are actually decreasing. And I am so relieved to finally be able to use official government data to prove that point, because if you look on the ONS page where they've reported this, they've said month on month from October to November, house prices fell on average across the UK. All right. So now, for anyone who didn't understand or believe me when I said year on year prices can be rising at the same time as month on month can be falling, year on year doesn't tell you what's happening now. And I will also be going into this video how to deal with any estate agent or anyone else in the moving industry who tried to say, oh, well, yeah, you know, the ONS put the official figures out. The latest data shows house prices are up 10%. House prices are rising. Okay, house prices are not rising. Completions registered in November for 6 to 9 months prior to that were 10% higher than a year previously. That has no relation to what's happening today at the coalface. And even back in November, between October to November, official prices were falling. Okay, and I'm going to explain exactly how it works so that all of you who are buyers tearing your hair out going, who do we listen to? Who do we believe? How do we know? How do we understand? You will know by the end of this video. You will have everything you need to be able to respond to anyone who tells you the house prices are going up. Now, yes, of course, there are hyper-local exceptions to this where house prices might be rising, but I will also tell you what you need to say to the agents locally to find out if that's happening for sure, whether it's just agent guff. And I'm also going to tell agents who watch this, because I know there's an increasing number of agents who watch this channel. You're all welcome. I'm glad you are. How to deal with your sellers who are just like, nope, I'm not going to drop my price. I'm waiting for the price. If I don't get my price, I'm just going to wait, right? I'll tell you how to make them shit or get off the pot, to use a really crass expression. I will tell you how to treat them so that they actually go, all right, fair enough, I'll drop my price. And I won't just drop my price, I will drop it far enough to get interest and viewings, or we'll get them to take the house off the market, right? So I'll come on to that. So as I've always said, and welcome to all my new followers, by the way. I'm getting so many new followers and it's wonderful. And to all of you, welcome. Please make sure you go through my back catalogue of YouTube videos, because answers to most of your questions are there somewhere. But if not, ask your questions anyway. It doesn't matter that house prices are falling if you're looking to buy, because you should still buy if you're trying to buy a home. You should just not overpay. Well, okay, Charlie, but how do we know what overpaying or not overpaying is? Well, that is a very good question. And that is exactly what you need to know how to work out for yourself at the local level. And that's why you need to know where to look to inform yourself about what you think is happening in the economy in the coming years, especially the coming this year. Because to not overpay, or to decide for yourself what not overpaying means, you've got to form an opinion on what you think the economy is going to do. Because as I will explain later, the economy and house prices are basically just dancing partners going round and round each other. The economy and house prices are like a couple who are dancing. And it's really important to understand that relationship. And that's why you've got to look at what you think is going to happen to the economy and form your own view on that. I'll come on to that in detail. Okay, I've got clips to play you today from a Bank of England interview on Radio 4 this morning. And I've got some articles to show you, because the media are not helping. On the whole, I've got two articles here. One from the Evening Standard from today, which is factually incorrect in its statement and totally misleading. And if you're a first-time buyer reading it, you're going to be so confused, or even worse, you're going to just believe what she says. And then there's another article from GB News, which again is, I mean, well, we'll just wait and see, and you can make up your own mind. Let me say a quick good evening to those of you. Hello, everybody. Carl Barkley, Nick Jones, TA, Regina. Hi, guys. Stop that, Luca, Pureblood, Iron Horse. And hi, those of you joining on TikTok as well. Catch Your Rock. Welcome. It's good to see you all. And I'd love it if you are new to the channel, this is your first live stream, or you haven't said hi before, please do say hi. Just say hi. I would love to know who is there. Balded, Iron Horse, Jimmy Davis, Jackie Carvey, some regulars, Annie Anonymous. Hi, guys. Noon Rich, hello, David McKenzie. Right, let me crack on. So I'm now going to tell you, we're going to first of all break down the house price index main points. We're going to unpick it just for a couple of minutes. I'm going to put it on your screen. If you're watching me on YouTube or anywhere except for TikTok, I can put it on your screen. No, that's the wrong page. Disregard that page. Share this tab instead. And on the TikTok, guys, I'm afraid you're just going to have to listen to me reading out the data. And that's going to affect the Wi-Fi if I move that there. Apologies. Okay, so the main points of today's Office for National Statistics house prices. I'm just going to also do that. No, that doesn't help, does it? You want that's what you need. There we go. Right. So the main points are: average UK house prices increased by 10.3% in the year to November 2022. So they're comparing completion prices that were registered at the land registry in 2022, in November only, 2022, with November 2021. All right? That's what that figure is. But on top of the delays in the conveyancing process, the land registry is also experiencing record delays, which are set to get worse this year as they go on strike. So I've also seen people today saying, my sale completed in August and it still hasn't been registered at the land registry. Okay, so November's completion prices are for deals that were being agreed at least 5 months earlier. So you're talking about June. Okay, so the November 2022 transactions that were registered in November 2022 were for deals that were agreed back in June 2022 or even earlier when you factor in the additional. So it's actually more like 6 to 9 months. Okay, and that 10.3% of year-on-year price increase was lower than the month before, because year-on-year increase to October was 12.4%. Okay, right. The average UK house price was 295, which was down from last month's record of 296. So that is the first time we've seen a month-on-month reduction in completed house prices being registered at the land registry. Okay, so this is vindication for me. I'm not going to say told you so. I'm not going to say told you so, but back in the summer, I was saying, everybody, house prices are falling at the coalface. This is the first cold, hard evidence that that was indeed the case. Now, it might be a tiny blip, and next month they might report house prices jumping again, but I don't think so. And I'm also very glad because I don't have to eat a raw onion live on here, which I said I would do if the prices didn't fall. Let's keep going. So they break down the averages across England, Wales, and Scotland. The links below if you want to go look it up yourself. Scotland and the Northwest saw the heights. So they've got the regions as well. Okay, and they talk about the details of it. I wanted to show you one more thing for the region. Now, this is a really weird one. So if you look, this is the annual house price rates of change for all dwellings from 2006 to 2022. And the weird thing, if you look at this graph that's on the screen now, sorry, okay, TikTok guys, I can show you like this, right? Is that up here, look at that volatility in the percentage change in price. Really weird when you look at the rest of it and sort of much smoother movements. I mean, that's a big increase. But then suddenly, up and down, up and down. It's just like there's something weird going on. And the other graph I wanted to show you, which gives you some of the regional breakdowns. What's that? That's the, yeah. Hold on, guys. House prices by country. That's breaks down by country. So yeah, you can see here, look, that we're just under see it properly dropping. That's the first time it's dropped significantly. I mean, ignore the pandemic bouncing up and down. It was just pandemic stuff. And since 2008, all right? Downwards, the first proper downward trend since 2008. So it's happening, everybody. House price falls are happening. We've now got official government confirmation. Now, look, this is the last bit. By region, these are percent increase, and you can see that London has got the lowest house price growth year on year, which would suggest that London house prices are falling at the fastest rate, or the falls are ahead of the rest of the country. London, the southeast, and then northwest and West Midlands appear to be the slowest to sort of catch up with house price falls. All right, so let's just get back to where we are. So that's that. Now, so that's what's actually happening, okay? And if any of you encounter an estate agent who says prices have gone up 10% in the last year, you can very politely inform them that they're actually inaccurate to say that. Prices have not gone up in the last year. Completed prices to November last year, which was 2 months ago, which represented transactions from 6 months before that on average, were 10% up on the year before that. But that bears no relevance to what's happening at the coalface today. And you can point out to them that actually month on month, house prices fell. So any agent that tells you house prices are going up year on year, yeah, and they're falling month on month. That's all you have to say. They're falling month on month. And you can point them at this ONS data. Okay, so just disregard the guff, guys. Don't forget, I mean, don't judge them for it. Their job is to sell the properties for the best price for their clients. And those of you who are sellers with houses on the market will know what I mean. But the market will always set the fair price. And the reason that no one's paying those silly asking prices for sellers now is because the market won't support it right now. It's as simple as that. If I was wrong, if the market would support it, they would be selling at that high price, notwithstanding the little exceptions that happen in pockets. Generally speaking, they're coming down. So I want to just show you 2 media articles to just show everyone that's watching this channel how confusing the even trusted media can be. So the London Evening Standard, let's just have a quick look at what the author of today's article on London property prices has said, because she's wrong. Her name is Emma, I can't remember her name, but it's in the article. Emma Magnus, there we are. So she has made the following statement. Today's figures, referring to the ONS figures, right, are based on completed property transactions. That's correct. And therefore, the sold prices. That's correct. In the year to November 2022. Partly correct as long as you say that it was transactions registered in the month of November 2022, completed sold prices. But what she goes on to say is completely wrong. She says, this means the figures released today reflect the aftermath of the disastrous mini budget. No, wrong. And the quiet period in the run-up to Christmas. No, it doesn't at all. I mean, literally not at all. So the data, the transactions that were recorded in November were for deals that, as we've had, and actually someone on YouTube has just told me in the comments here that you sold, who was it who mentioned that your house is sold and the land registry hasn't registered yet? Okay. This is completely wrong. This means figures read today reflect the aftermath of the mini budget. Wrong. The mini budget was the 23rd of September. So the very earliest that transactions that could have been affected by that would have been October. And almost none of the transactions that took place in October, even if they completed with surveyors, with conveyancers in October, would have been registered in November. So almost zero of the transactions included in the ONS data today happened after the mini budget. So she is completely wrong to say figures released today reflect the aftermath of the disastrous mini budget. Well, hang on a second. What does that mean? We haven't even seen the effect of that in completion figures yet. No, we haven't. We're not going to for some time, right? I don't think we're going to see the true effect of the aftermath of the disastrous mini budget, until March, April, May. That's when you'll start to see the true effect of it, which is why I believe house price falls have got a lot further to go because of this big delay in the reporting. And she's saying it reflects the quiet period of the run-up to Christmas. No, it doesn't. Not even a little bit does it do that. The ONS figures today do not reflect any of the activity after the disastrous mini budget and the run-up to Christmas. The timing is out. I'm really sorry about that. Right? So I'm sorry, Emma. We haven't had any conversations. I'd love to get in touch with you and explain if you'd like me to explain further. But you are, I mean, unless I've misunderstood something there, you're completely wrong. Now, let's take a little look. I might end up being interviewed on GB News. It's not a news organization whose politics I share. Nevertheless, I would still welcome any invitation to go on to GB News to talk about house prices. If it ever happens, it may never happen, but it might. Because I would like the opportunity to try and persuade the GB News audience to just question some of the stuff they're being told and maybe think, well, maybe there's another angle to this, and get them to open their eyes a bit and perhaps think, because what a lot of bollocks this man is talking. let's just make sure. Yeah, here we are. Okay, so let me just. This is a chap whose name I've never heard before. He's a top property expert. Top property expert. Yeah, if you're a top property expert, you wouldn't. You'd be on your. You'd be sunning yourself on your yacht somewhere. So he says many experts predicted the turn of the year would deliver a house price crash that would see tens of thousands right to the value of the average home. Yes. We haven't had time to see that. We won't, if that does happen, we won't know, will we? Because we won't see the completion figures for the turn of the year until at least 6 months afterwards. He talks about average asking prices being 0.9% higher than they were in December. That's only Rightmove. And Rightmove put out two conflicting messages on that. One of them said it was only the price of newly listed properties, and the other one said it was the average of all properties. And I've been unable to find out which one it is. He goes on to say, and this is where I think, in terms of the sort of quality of data backing and information behind his argument, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if come the spring, many regions are seeing house prices rise again. It honestly wouldn't surprise me. And then by the summer, we could see widespread asking price rises. He believes there are a number of other reasons to be optimistic. Interest rates are no longer the nightmare they were. Yes, they are. They're much, much higher than they were. Even though they've come down a bit, they're much, much higher than they were. Let me, at this point, cut to a YouTube comment and share this with you. Right? Erin T on YouTube, I think it was yesterday before, said, I've been checking every 6 months or so in the last year. Sorry, I'm just going to check. I've got how much we could realistically. I've been checking every 6 months or so in the last year and a bit how much we could realistically get for a first home buyer mortgage. Our lives have not changed at all in terms of jobs. In fact, they've improved. However, in real terms, we can realistically get about £60,000 to £70,000 less on a mortgage than we could a year ago, and pay £400 more in monthly repayments for the 60, 70 grand less mortgage for an additional 5-year time span. So I know Charlie must be right, because all first-time buyers are going to be in the same boat. All first-time buyers who need a mortgage are going to be in the same boat. Absolutely right. Okay. So that's, you can borrow less. It'll cost you more to borrow less than a year earlier, and you're going to have to borrow it for longer. So what did our man say? Interest rates are no longer the nightmare they were. You're not doing yourself any favors here, Jonathan. We saw 8 rate rises in 2022, but now there is a widespread feeling. There is a widespread feeling, he says. Oh, really? Okay. Whose feeling is that? That the worst of the Bank of England rises may well be behind us. Well, I'm about to play you the Deputy Governor of the Bank of England on Radio 4 this morning, who says the opposite. The fact that rents are high is also significant too. It's bad news for tenants, but it does mean that for many it makes great financial sense to buy property where possible, as the mortgage may be less equivalent rent. Well, that also isn't the case for many people at the moment. Wage rises, while some are still struggling to keep pace with inflation, many people have seen their salaries increase faster than any time in the last 20 years, giving them additional property buying power. No, because as with today's or yesterday's wage rise figures, wages are barely half inflation. In the public sector, they are 3% versus 10% inflation, so they're 9% poorer in 1 year. And in the private sector, we're at 6%, so they're still 4% poorer. So no one, that unless you're getting wage pay rises of more than 10%, no one has got additional property buying power. So I think that qualifies my description of this article as a load of bollocks. I don't think that's an unfair description. Do you? I mean, it's literally just hot air. It's guff. It's the kind of crap that some estate agents, not all, because not all agents are the same, it's exactly the kind of guff, that hot, smelly air that comes out of people who are trying to get you to sign into something that you don't want to sign into. So thank you, GB News, for not helping at all, but just to confuse people. And thank you, Evening Standard, who really, honestly, I think should be doing a better job than that. That is a very misleading statement. I'm sure it was innocent, but nevertheless, a very misleading statement. Now, where have we got to? What is next? Okay. So we've got this Mexican standoff. We've got this Mexican standoff where we've got a lot, not all sellers, there are some sellers being sensible, dropping their prices, getting their property sold, okay? And this is the point, right? Especially to agents watching. All of my followers are saying, we're dying to buy. We want to buy. We need to buy. We have to buy. But we can't overpay. We can't pay what they're asking because A, the mortgage lending valuation guys won't sign it off. And B, we just can't, we're not going to overpay when everybody can see, if you bother to do your research, that house prices are falling and are likely to fall a lot further. Okay. So right now, buyers are being rational. I'm not talking about piss takers putting in cheeky offers. That's not being rational. But there are buyers out there willing to pay a fair market price for a new home now. Now, agents, I'm very much addressing any agents watching this now, because it might be frustrating if you're a first-time buyer that you're making offers and people are saying no, right? That might be frustrating. You're tearing your hair out, okay? But I promise you, it is even more frustrating for the agents, because agents are having a shocking time now. Shocking time. Because the agents can't make their living, right? The agents who get paid on commission and the owners of small businesses cannot earn a penny if they cannot persuade a buyer and seller to agree a price. And I've been talking to agents. Just today, I was on the phone again to another agent who was updating me on the challenges he's been having with specific deals and giving me the whole story around it. So this is what agents need to do for your own benefit, massively, and for the benefit of the market as a whole. Because whatever needs to happen, the faster it happens, the better for everybody, right? And this is what needs to happen. If I was an estate agent now with properties on my books that had come onto the market and the asking prices are too high, even if I had been guilty of telling the sellers who put them on whenever they were 3 months ago, 4 months ago, or even this year, even if I was the one that said, look, that's the price I think we can sell it at, I would be saying this. I'd be saying, I'm sorry. I sincerely believe that was a price that we could sell at. I was wrong. The market has caught me out. If you need to sell your house, and if you want to sell your house, I now need you to agree to drop the price to a level that I know we will get phone calls, inquiries, and viewings and offers. And if you're not willing to drop your price, if you, Mr. or Mrs. Unrealistic Seller, are not willing to drop your price to a level that will generate inquiries, then I'm afraid you're going to need to find another agent to sell your house. Right? Yes. You're going to need to find another agent to sell your house. You as an agent should dis-instruct yourself from the listings of sellers who are just being, no, I'm just waiting for my price. I'm just waiting for my price, because they are wasting your time, wasting your money, clogging up the market. And when you say this to a seller, they will do one of two things, right? Because you will flush them out as to whether they're a real seller or not. If they're a real seller, and you do it professionally and obviously don't make them feel, because this is not going to be nice for them to hear, right? If they're a real seller and they actually think, oh God, okay, wow, our agent's telling us that he won't work for us anymore unless we agree to a better price. What are you going to do? Are you going to say no and go through the rigmarole of moving with another agent and all the time that takes? Or are you going to say yes? So if you're the agent, they're either going to go, do you know what, take it off the market. In which case, great, they've done you a favor. They've done the market a favor. They weren't serious about selling. Or they're going to say, all right, fair enough. What do we need to drop it to? And you can say to them, we should drop the price to a price that is lower than similar properties so that your property gets all the inquiries. It doesn't matter what the asking price is. If we drop it too low and we get multiple inquiries, we'll get offers over the new low asking price, and people will be able to move. Buyers will be able to get into their new home. Sellers will be able to move on to their new home, and agents will be able to make a living. And by the way, I've had stories today, private messages of agents going, I'm out. The writing's on the wall. It's just tumbleweed out there, and it's going to be very, very hard to make a living as an agent unless you're a really good agent. The good agents out there are doing deals because they're only taking on sellers with realistic expectations, and they know how to get these properties sold, and they're worth their weight in gold. And if you are a seller watching this tonight, if you're not on the market yet, I had someone message me today saying, Charlie, we've found an agent we want to go with. They've sent through the paperwork. And what they didn't tell us in the meeting, what I've read through the paperwork and found, is that there is a 16-week sole agency lock-in in the contract. What can we do? The answer is you ring up the agent or you email them and say, we won't be signing any long-term lock-in contracts. So unless you are prepared to scratch that clause out of the contract or agree to a much shorter acceptable sole agency period, like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, then we won't be going with you. And I promise you, don't ask nicely, be very firm with the agent, because this is the risk you're taking if you sign a 16-week or longer lock-in. You sign up with you sign the contract, and by the way, guys, if you sign them, by the way, you've got 14-day cooling off. So any seller that's just signed with an agent and has just discovered in the contract that there is actually a 16-week lock-in and you're within 14 days of signing, get out of your contract, or say to the agent, either remove that clause or I'm exercising my right to cancellation of the contract within 14 days. Because here is the nightmare. I could be wrong, right? But if I'm right about what's happening in the house price, and I think right now house prices are in accelerating freefall. We won't see it happening in asking prices until the second quarter of this year, but I think house prices at the coalface of deals being agreed are in accelerating freefall, right? Let me qualify this. 6 months ago, I said, guys, house prices are falling. Everyone thought I was nuts. Everyone thought I was mad. Everyone thought I was an idiot, and I was just doing it to get clicks. Well, today's evidence from the government has proved that I was right. Doesn't mean I'll be right this time. It doesn't mean I'll be right this time. But I've done my homework, and I've considered what have I missed that might bring house prices back up. And I've done the actual quantifying, not just looking for bits of good news versus bits of bad news, because that's not a mathematical way of doing it, right? I'm looking at quantifiable input factors to the property market, and I see prices having very, very steep falls this year. So if I'm right and you're a seller that's just signed a 16-week sole agency lock-in with your agent, this is what could happen. If they don't get you a buyer, an agreed deal within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then go, oh, sorry, it's just gone really quiet, we've got no buyers, got no viewings, you are stuck with your house gathering dust on their shelf for 16 weeks unless you drop the price way low, lower than you would have wanted to do it, right? And it costs, they've got you over a barrel at that point. All you can do is say to them, take my property off the market and wait 16 weeks. But do you want to be waiting for 16 weeks if there's a chance properties are going to be in free fall? Okay? Do not sign long sole agency contracts, sellers. Any seller talking to an agent, before you invite them around to your house, say, by the way, if you're going to ask me to sign a long-term sole agency contract, don't even come around to my house. Don't even come around, because I'm not going to sign it. I won't use you if that's a requirement. Only come round to my house for a valuation if you are going to agree to a maximum 6-week with 2-week rolling notice period after that. All right? So agents, if you've got clients being unrealistic, and they're tied into a long sole agency agreement, let them out of it. Let them go. Okay, I'm getting thirsty. What would I advise a second-time buyer who's looking to move to London? I'd advise you to wait or find the home you want to buy and make the offer that you're comfortable paying. So let's assume now that everyone understands the time delay effect of house price reporting. So you know that using the official government figures, house prices fell in November officially. That doesn't mean they're falling in every single borough and town, but overall they're falling. Right? And you've got to look out the local stuff for yourself. You know they're falling, so you've got to say to agents who are saying you've got to put a higher offer in. So you're not going to put a higher offer in. Not higher than we're comfortable putting. You need to talk to your clients and talk them down and point them at this video, right? Point them at this video and say, there is no evidence to support that those asking prices from last year should still be there. House prices started falling last year. Factor in the time delay of the month-on-month fall in November. That tells us house prices were falling back in the summer of 2022. Okay? So, how do you know what? So by the way, guys, the Mexican standoff, all we can do is spread the word of what the reasons I'm about to go into about why I think house price falls are going to accelerate, and try to speed up the process of sellers coming to terms with the real market, because I know that there are so many buyers out there with money ready and waiting to buy if sellers get real, right? Tell me if you think I'm wrong, but that's what I'm seeing. It's what I'm hearing. So what I'm about to go through now is all of the reasons why I think house prices not only have fallen, but will continue to fall and get faster, okay? And this is stuff to do with the economy. And I'm going to share the links. They're in the links below. I'm going to play you a few bits. I'm going to go through this. So this is the section that you would send an agent and say to them, right, 35 minutes into Charlie's video, watch the bit where he now talks about why house prices are going to keep on falling. In no particular order, I'm going to start with what this chap, Sir John Geeve, who was the former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, said on the Today programme. Now, I've linked to it below. It's on iPlayer, so you can go and listen to this article. It starts at 2 hours, 43 minutes in to the podcast on iPlayer. I'm going to play you a 40-second clip, just a 40-second clip, where he talks about inflation. And it's the bit I think is the most telling about what's coming down the line for the economy and for wages this year. But I urge you all to go and listen to this 10-minute, it's only 10 minutes, right? Go and listen to this 10-minute interview if you're out there trying to buy it and talking to agents, so that you are armed with information to say to an agent that says, oh, everything's going to be okay. Say, well, no, this article, this guy from the Bank of England says he's expecting rates to go up. Expecting rates to go up. Let me just get to... Right. Okay. I hope you can hear this.
The government has a choice, in a way, as to what it does about public sector pay, which doesn't affect inflation directly, but of course does affect borrowing and expenditure. They've decided to protect Social Security rates, minimum wage, the poorest, if you like, against this big rise in inflation. But at the moment, they're trying to not protect the public services wages, and so those are quite low, and that means real sharp pay reductions in real terms for most public servants.
Sir John Geeve, thank you.
It is now. All right, so that's just one little clip. You need to listen to all of it. He talks about interest rates, why he thinks they've got to go up. He talks about the fact that let me give you a few other quotes from that interview. He says, core inflation. So today's inflation, or yesterday's inflation figures, dropped from 10.7% to 10.5%. So that's a tiny drop in inflation. And some people are saying that inflation is now baked in and it's going to be stubbornly high for a while. He does think it's going to come down to about 5% by the end of the year, but he said there's a lot of uncertainty about that. But he said this, he explained in the article, in the interview, he said, yes, there's 10%, which is now 10.5%. That's so very high. But he said, core inflation, excluding energy and fuel prices, is still rising. He said that he is expecting interest rates to go up because the economy is not going into recession as fast as people were expected. And he said that there is a paradox where better than expected GDP figures actually equal higher interest rates because the Bank of England is relying on recession. And therefore, they're going to push harder. And he said there's a lot more pain to come. So that's one thing, that's one opinion, a fairly qualified opinion, that you can use to talk about, well, hang on a second, the public sector are currently getting equivalent of a 7% pay cut at the moment, constantly. What's that going to do? That's going to massively impact their disposable income, their ability to buy property. Now, in April, if everyone's forgotten about this, right? But in the mini budget last year, or the second, but Jeremy Hunt's budget, there are income tax rises coming for all of us, starting in April. Everyone's income tax is going up in April. Now, that won't hit the pockets of the self-employed for a lot later because there's a time delay if you're self-employed paying tax. But for everyone on PAYE, you're going to be paying more tax from April, right? In 3 months' time. And indefinitely after that. So that's also going to hit disposable income. Energy costs. Now, although energy wholesale, gas wholesale prices have dropped, we are not going to see household energy prices drop. We're actually going to see them go up. I'm not going to put that. Martin Lewis did a video on exactly why, explained exactly why. And because the energy price cap is higher than the energy price guarantee. So we're only paying the energy price guarantee, and that's being raised by 20% at some point this year. I can't remember if it's April or October. It's going up, and it's still below the price cap and the actual price of energy. So no one is going to be having lower energy bills anytime this year, whatever happens to wholesale gas prices, right? So don't believe this, oh, good news, energy prices coming down. It's not going to affect households this year in 2023. We do see it sooner at the fuel pumps. That is one thing that I have seen, thank God, slightly cheaper prices at the fuel pumps, but still eye-wateringly high compared to what they were a year ago. So that's energy costs. Inflation continues to outstrip wages for everybody, almost everybody, which means everybody's getting poorer until inflation has come down below wage rates. And in fact, the true level of inflation is much higher than 10%. You go and do your weekly shop, right? Who hasn't noticed the cost of a weekly shop going through the roof? And then there's one more thing. I have linked to this podcast, which is a Bloomberg podcast from Stephanie Flanders, who's now the chief economist at Bloomberg. The link to it is below, and start listening to it. This is all about global inflation and what's happening in Argentina and what's happening in Turkey. And just it's actually quite, you need to listen to it. If you want to think about what's potentially coming down the line for us, listen to that, because global inflation has an impact on our inflation, whether we like it or not. And this podcast explains it quite well. I've linked to it below the YouTube version of this video. All right. Okay, guys, shall we? I just wanted to just play you a clip just for a few seconds. I want to play you this clip as well. Because this is basically, in my mind, what the housing market, house prices and the economy are, right? House prices and the economy are just always dancing. They are interlinked, inextricably linked, whether we like it or not. Woohoo, what a move. And it's worth everyone remembering that, because that's why you need to be looking at what you think is going to happen to the economy, all right? If you want to really if you want to form your own opinion about what's going to happen to house prices, what's going to happen to the economy and how that's going to affect house prices, understand the fact that the economy and house prices are inextricably linked, and what happens to one affects the other and vice versa. I just thought that was a nice little metaphor way of showing it. So, right, let's go and take some questions. So questions on house prices and economics, and any of you give me your stories about a couple of bits of news actually to update everybody with. I am expecting to be on BBC Radio 4, You and Yours, at 12 o'clock next Wednesday, the 25th of January, talking about new homes, which I'm very excited about. It's a massive, massive break for me. Really excited to be doing that. And I'm going to be talking all about new homes, first-time buyers, the pitfalls, and what people should be thinking about in this marketplace. I'm apparently going to be also in the interview is going to be someone from the new house building industry. Not quite sure who it is. But that is really exciting. I'm going to be on Radio 4, You and Yours, arguably one of the top-notch consumer affairs programs in the country, which I'm really cool about, really excited about. And the other thing is, I'll give you more information on this when I have it, but I heard yesterday about a scheme which is not a government scheme. It's one particular house builder called Fairview, who are doing a really inventive scheme, and I haven't thought through what the pitfalls might be here, where if it's subject to certain criteria, if you meet certain sort of credit check criteria, you can move into a new home and without buying it, but you put down 1% and you then pay what you would be paying in rent somewhere else. You pay them rent, but that actually goes into become your deposit. And within 1 to 2 years, you then have to exchange and complete, and you then own it 100%. And what they're doing is saying, basically, live in your new home to save up your deposit. So rather than paying some other landlord your rent every month when you're trying to save up your deposit, live in your new home while saving up your deposit. And when you got your deposit, we can exchange and complete, and the property is yours. So interesting. I'm going to look into that a lot more. Right, guys, let's do some questions. Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, head-to-head interview should be fun. Okay, let me find some questions. Questions. Oh, good question. So Benny Benoit asks on YouTube, how do mortgage valuation people come to a valuation versus agents? I'm gonna have to move my camera, otherwise I can't see the screen properly. Right, well, agents are not qualified valuers. That's important to remember, okay? Agents don't come around to value your home, they come around to give you what's called a marketing appraisal. Unless they are a qualified chartered surveyor, they can't do, technically speaking, a valuation, okay? So what they do is they look at what's on the market now, what they've just sold recently, and they look at comparables. But the truth is, no one knows what your home's going to sell for until it actually sells. Mortgage valuation people, and this is going to sound a bit backwards, they've got some valuing qualifications. They're registered valuers for the lenders. But they too will go and talk to local agents to find out what the most recent comparable sales were and at what price, because there's no public visibility of that for such a long time. Right, let me see. What other questions do we have? Jimmy Davis has a question. Hi, Jimmy. I'm seeing Rightmove data showing 5.2% drop in my region, and today's ONS data showing a drop in my region, and yet houses are still disappearing in under 60 days in my area. What is happening? If that's true, it just means they're priced correctly. It means, if there's a 5.2% drop in prices, well, that means that the sellers in that area are actually being more realistic, which is why there are buyers out there waiting to snap properties up if the prices come down. So without knowing any more information than that, Jimmy, that's the answer I would suggest to that. What else do we have? Steph on YouTube asks, can I offer less when the property is fixed price without offending the agent or seller? Now, this is a question I get a lot. And all I can say to you is this. It shouldn't be a factor in what you offer, worrying about offending anybody. I'm not saying that you should set out to offend anybody, but I'm saying that it's irrelevant, because this is how it works in real life. When you are dealing with a property that you like and you want to buy it, but the seller has got a ludicrous price on it, and you go in and put an offer in of, let's just say, 20% under. And the way you deliver your offer is, I'm really sorry, based on my research and my situation and my predicament, the maximum amount I'm comfortable offering is 20%. I understand that's not what you're looking for. I understand it may not be acceptable to you. But unless you have any other offers, I hope you'll consider my offer. That's how I would submit a very low offer. And of course, the reaction is going to be from the agent. This is just Agent Guff. Yes. Oh, I mean, thank you for your offer, but I mean, I can't put that forward to my client. Well, you have to, right? Agents have to put it. If you put it in email, always put the email off an email. The agent won't be offended, right? Agents couldn't care less. In the end, they just want the property sold at whatever the market price is. They don't care. Agents won't be offended. Agents might be worried about having to convey your offer to their client, but they won't be offended. So, number one, you won't offend an agent. And if they pretend to be offended, it's Agent Guff, disregard it. Number two, the seller might be offended. Okay? But that's their problem. If they've got unrealistic expectations, and the unrealistic expectations are leading to them being offended when they get a realistic market price offer, that's their problem. They will survive being offended. It's not going to hurt them. They need a wake-up call. So, and what will happen is they'll initially come back because they will be offended and they'll be upset, and they'll tell the agent, no, tell that buyer, we're not interested in that rude, ridiculous offer. And then they'll go away and think about it and go, well, we have to move. There are no other offers. They'll ask the agent, any other offers? The agent will say no if you're the only offer. And they'll take 24 to 48 hours to get over their offence. And they then might come back to the table, and they may or may not accept your offer, but they might come to the agent and go, well, maybe we should drop our asking price a bit. They might come back to you and say, well, actually, we're not going to knock 20% off, but we'll knock 10% off. And if they do that, you've opened a negotiation successfully. And it's up to you whether you increase or not. I don't think you should. I should stick to your guns and say that's a maximum offer, and see if they want to come down. Because once a seller comes to terms with the reality, the fact that the market is not going to pay them what they want, they then got to face the decision, well, do we want to move or not? And if they have to move, they've got to accept your offer if it's the only one. And if they don't have to move, they might say, well, do you know what? We're not going to sell. Either way, it progresses things. So do not worry about offending them. They'll be okay. Of course, they'll be disappointed, but they'll be okay. Okay? We need to get this marketplace moving for everyone, for the country, for the economy, for everyone. We need to get the market moving. So don't worry about offending. As long as you put your offer in writing and it's respectful and you say, I understand this is a long way, but... And guys, I bought my first flat in Brighton for 30-something% below the asking price, right? I was a cash buyer. I went to see it. The agent said, it's had a tenant in it. It's in terrible state. We haven't been able to get anyone else to view it. The seller's actually getting quite desperate. And I said, well, I can't offer anywhere near asking. And it was on the market for £35,000. This was in the early 1990s in Brighton. And I had £23,500. That's all I had. £23,500 was all I had. And I went to look at it. And I said, well, I'll make my offer. I told the agent, I said, that's all I've got. They said, well, you can still see it. I made my offer. Nobody was offended. They came back. The agent was pleased. They were like, actually, we can get a sale. They came back, and the seller said, you know, could you go to 25? And I said, if I had it, I would. I haven't got it, so I can't. And he accepted my offer of 23,500, and that's how I got my first flat. You know, it happened. I don't think that landlord was offended. I hope that's a helpful answer to everybody. Let's find another question. So, sorry about this. Do we have any new questions on TikTok? Spidey Dancer asks, how far the market can fall? I don't want to answer that question. So Jack G8DX says, Charlie, my home has been on the market for nearly 2 weeks at a very keen price. Well done for doing it at a keen price, Jack. You've had 3 offers above asking price. Well, that proves that when you price it correctly, you'll get offers. But none of the buyers are proceedable. Could you elaborate on that, Jack? Do you mean that they don't have a mortgage in principle, or do you mean that they've all got something to sell? I'd love to know the answer to that question. So Zohaib Qureshi says, Charlie, the area I am planning to buy in has a very low inventory. Does this mean that this area could be least affected by the overall drop in the market? It depends how much buying interest there is. So potentially, yes, if there's a very low inventory and there are lots of buyers, yeah, it could be less affected than other areas. Here's a good question from someone I haven't recognized before. Exile2828 says, I'm looking to upsize from a 1-bed house when my mortgage runs out in 2024. What is the average time frame for buying and selling? The average time frame for buying and selling, and I've done a video recently on buying and selling, which I urge you to go and see, because you've got a choice of trying to do a simultaneous sale and purchase, which is very, very difficult, especially in this market, or you can sell and then buy separately, which in some instances is actually faster for reasons I explained in that video. But the average, it's roughly speaking, in normal market, the time frame for a purchase is 12 months currently, because at the point a first-time buyer sets out and thinks, right, we're ready to buy it, we want to go out and buy it, we think we can buy it. It's typically 6 months between that and when they actually find somewhere and get an offer accepted, if they've got the money right, and then another 6 months before the deal completes. So it's about 12 months is how much you should typically be expecting in terms of time frame for buying and selling. Aoife Gregory, hi there. I think you're new. I haven't seen you here before. Saw a house today. I want to offer 20k over what a few properties on. Okay, so I'm assuming the house is 20,000 over what a few properties on that street sold as, but finished to a much higher quality. Do I offer asking prices or offer below and take the risk? If you are buying a home and you can afford comfortably, without overextending yourself and without risking negative equity, you can afford to pay asking price. The only way to avoid the risk of someone else getting it is to pay asking price, as long as you don't think you're overpaying. If it's overpaying, walk away. But if you can afford it, even if it's a slight premium, but you can afford it and you love it and you want to buy it, then either you offer asking price and secure it immediately and you've got your home and you're happy, or you offer under asking price, someone else offers asking price, you lose out and you kick yourself and think, you know what, for the sake of a few £1,000, I could have had that. So if you are a buyer and you can afford it and you think the asking price is reasonable and it's within your reach. Now, if you think there are no other offers, and this is where you've got to talk to the agent and find out. Sorry, I've just seen. I pronounced that name correctly. Thank you very much. Good feedback. You could, of course, try and pay a bit less if you feel it's overvalued. But if you think it's good value compared to the others, and you can afford it, go for it. Right, this is a serious question. James Creer on YouTube says, just bought a new build flat in Salford. I'm worried about negative equity ahead of settling Help to Buy in 5 years. Where can I find the most specific and localized data on price changes? Well, James, it sounds like you've bought it, you've moved in, and you're worried about what's happening 5 years from now. I'm not sure there's anything to be gained from looking about what's happening locally to your prices, because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You're in there for 5 years. I would just be, if at all possible, I would just be making sure that you've got plans for that eventuality should it happen. So, for example, I'm not going to go into that now. It's not the right video for that. But the most specific and localized data on price changes, it's the land registry. The land registry, go and look at the land registry. You can see every single individual property and what it's sold for. You're going to be seeing property data that's 6 months out of date. But if you're there for 5 years, that's okay, because you'll get a feel for what's happening. So Jack, coming back to Jack's question, Jack G8DX, I fear the unproceedable buyers are expecting to buy my place for sensible money and get last year's prices for their homes. All three offers are from the same village as my property. Yeah, that's a real predicament. So if I was in that situation, Jack, if I was a seller in that situation, you priced it sensibly, but your buyers are all people that need to sell and they're all expecting last year's money, then you need to know which agent they're on with. You need to talk to the agent that they're selling with. And I would ring the agents and say, you've got a client selling, they're my buyer. I need to know what you think you're going to get for it and when. I don't know if they'll be comfortable telling you that. Talk to all three of them, find out who you think is going to actually be. And maybe what you can say to all three of them is, first one with your house under offer, I can't take your offer seriously until I know what you sold your price for. And so in that scenario, I would say, I'll accept any of your offers as soon as you've got your property under offer. So you're forcing them to be realistic about their price, because you'll create competition between them, if you see what I mean. And so they'll talk to each other and they'll think, well, shit, we've got two other people bidding against us. First one to sell their house gets the new one. We better price ours most keenly. That's how I would play that scenario. I hope that's helpful. Spestis, are flats typically harder to sell than houses? I can't answer that without knowing where. It very depends on the local market and who the buyers are. Hannah Green. Hi, Charlie. Going to view a house on Saturday based on your advice of looking at 25% over our budget. So just let me recap what my advice was. Because so many agents and sellers are listing properties at unrealistically high prices, I've said that, I would be going out and looking at anything that's listed up to a maximum of sort of 25%. If the asking price is up to 25% above my budget, I'd look at it. I wouldn't expect to get it, but I would certainly look at it. Your question is, can you realistically offer 580k on a 750k property? So that's 170 grand off the asking price. I can't get that. That's not 25%, is it? But the question, can we realistically offer? Everyone needs to understand this. Please listen to this statement very carefully. Anyone can offer anything you like, right? If it's a silly, cheeky offer that's you're not really serious about, you're probably going to get detected and then get pissed off. The agent will get pissed off and not want to deal with you again. But if your offer is a serious and meaningful offer, you can offer whatever price you like. If you say, this is the maximum price we're comfortable offering, you don't need anyone's. So nobody needs anyone's permission to make an offer. And there are no rules about what you can or you can't offer. You can offer anything you like, and you'll be amazed, especially in a buyer's market. I'm not saying that 9 out of 10 of them are going to say, do one when you go in with your 25% under asking price. And that's fine. You only need one person selling a house that you like to go, well, actually, this is a probate sale. We don't really care. We just want it sold. Yeah, we'll take your offer. It's the only one in town. We all want. And you never know. That's why you've got to be out there viewing. And by the way, guys, going back to what I said earlier, oh God, I've gone over an hour already. To know what's happening in the market where you want to buy, the only way to be sure is to be out viewing. Get out viewing. Agents will thank you for it. Agents, if you're there, if there are any agents watching this, could you go in the comments, tell me if you agree. Would you rather have a buyer that's just, or no buyers at all coming around to do viewings? Would you rather have viewings from people considering low offers or no viewings? I mean, that's, sorry, patronizing question. You know what I mean, though. Could you confirm that actually agents are keener for people to go and view property now than they normally would be? That would be really cool. Jay Singh says, can you be a cash buyer to get a good deal on a desperate seller, then get a mortgage on just after you complete? Well, I mean, that would be an equity release mortgage. I mean, in theory, yes. If you've got the cash, you can buy it, and then you can take out a mortgage against it. Yes, you could do that, in theory. Question, would I recommend a shared ownership? No, I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it's just got so many problems with it. If it's your only option, possibly. But guys, just hang on in there. I think affordability is going to get better. So we've got a TikTok question here to take. Do I think prices will continue to fall in 2024? Yes, I do. Do I think mortgage rates and house prices will continue to reduce? I think house prices will continue to reduce. I don't know about mortgage rates because I know the Bank of England base rate is likely to go up. So I'm not confident that mortgage rates will continue to reduce. They have reduced recently because there's increased competition amongst banks because no one's buying. Yeah. So, CYDY1, you are an agent, I believe, aren't you? On YouTube says, yes, view. So I'm glad I got an agent agreeing with me here. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. It's the only way to know what's happening in the market and know that you're not overpaying. Okay, AM on YouTube asked a good question, which is, what is the subtext behind offers over? Right, there's a two-part answer to this question. Part one, when a property is priced sensibly and correctly to attract maximum interest, it's priced at a price that the agent knows they will get at least that amount of money for it. Because the agent is a professional, local, knows the patch really well, and it just knows the market, has got the finger on the pulse, and knows that that price is going to attract competing interest from buyers. And therefore, what they're saying is, we know that this is a very low price, a bit like Jack's property, right? Where he's got 3 offers over asking price. Yeah. If you price it correctly, and most agents don't do this, but the good agents do it. If you price it correctly, you get competing buyers and you'll find out what today's market will get for your property. Okay, so don't disregard offers over. Part 2 of my question is that a lot of less experienced and unprofessional agents who've only been around the last couple of years when it's been a doddle to sell anything, everything they've sold has gone to offers over asking price, and that's all they know. And so there are some agents out there that literally don't know any other way than putting offers over, and they think they have to tell their sellers that to get the sellers to put it on the market. But the hard thing is it's very hard at face value to tell which ones are the ones that are crazy overpriced and asking offers over, and which ones are priced sensibly. But if you're out there viewing your local market, you'll know. You'll know which ones look sensibly priced, and you'll know because when you ring the agent, they'll say, "Yep, we've got several viewings on that," and they won't be bullshitting you. William Condon, Charlie, it's always a delight to watch your show. Well, it's always a delight to get comments like that, and it's always a delight to have all of you guys watching my show. Right, RJ. Question: what do you think to the RICS, the Royal Institute Chartered Surveyors, for reliable information as a guide to house prices? How often do they release their reports? They don't. RICS doesn't so much do a house price index as it just does buyer seller sentiment, and it's quite obscure how it measures just through its own members. And not all agents are members of RICS, but I mean their information is reliable, but RICS members are all estate agents, and so there is always a slight spin or tilt in favor of what the industry wants, but they do tend to be, they do tend to report on falling buyer interest and that kind of stuff. So yes, I would regard RICS information as credible, but with a tiny pinch of salt, if that makes sense. Questions, more questions. Any more questions on TikTok? So Lydia on TikTok, what kind of offer does a buyer expect when it's offers in the region of? Offers in the region. Honestly, guys, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but if you are a buyer watching this, just disregard the asking price and disregard what. I mean, the software that I've provided to estate agents for the last 20 years has a field in it called price terms. And it's the field where the agent decides to put in whether it's asking price or guide price or offers in the region of or offers in excess of or offers over. And there's no science or hard rules to which one they use. It's always a bit of a, which is the best one to choose for this? Which one's going to keep the client happiest? Disregard it. It's guff, right? When you see that bit before or after price, and I'm sorry, agents who are watching me saying this, you're going, no, Charlie, shut up. It's just true. It's pointless. Just disregard it, right? Disregard the asking price itself as well. You will know when you go to see the property and talk to the agent whether it's a sensibly priced property or not. And only then can you make a decision on what you should be offering. I hope that's a helpful question. Now, Paul Ransom's on YouTube has made a comment saying, I offered $610,000 on a 700 grand property at the beginning of November, and that property is still on the market. So the other thing, the agent who rang me today told me that a buyer and a seller who were having a standoff finally came to their senses. It was really funny. He said both of the men were digging their heels in, but both of the wives had a word and managed to make a deal happen. You can read whatever you like into that. But the other ingredient you should all consider on your list of ingredients in how to successfully buy a home is time and patience, right? It's like when you take something out of the oven and you leave it to rest for a while before you eat it or carve it or whatever you do. Place your offer and let it breathe. Give it time. There's an awful lot that the agent and the seller need to go through, especially when it's an offer a long way below asking price. So just expect at least 48 hours for them to process and come to terms with the reality of your offer. All right. So Paul, I've got lots of you send me messages. Lots of you keep me up to date with your stories of your attempts to buy and how it's going and what's fallen through. And I love those stories, and please keep those updates coming. But Paul, if it's still on there and you've only offered, what's that? That's about 12% below asking price. I don't know when you last spoke to the agent, but I'd give him a ring and say, is your seller going to give them a ring, tell them to watch this video? But again, remember guys, some sellers cannot sell for less than their asking price for financial reasons. Maybe it's debt clearance, maybe it's the required price to move to buy on, whatever it might be. So some sellers have got room to move and some haven't, and you never know which ones they are. And unless you're out viewing the property and talking to the agent, you won't find out. What have we got here? We got any more new questions? Wow. So G on YouTube says, "Hey Charlie, great channel, thank you. Prices should fall 40 to 60%. Now, everyone should remember there are nominal price falls, which is the actual sticker price of a property and what they are now and what they're going to be in a year or two. And then there are real price falls, which is taking into account inflation. So if you take into account the fact that inflation is 10% now, it means that house prices have already fallen 10%. Even though the sticker price might be the same as a year ago, they've actually fallen 10% because of inflation. So that 40 to 60%, including inflation, is entirely possible. Orla McKenna. I'm just really struggling for time. I want to. There's so many more videos I want to do, but I'm just not getting the time to do them. Orla asks, why are rents going up so much? It's crazy. I'm afraid that is a simple fact of supply and demand, which brings me on to a topic I want to talk about. Last topic before we wrap up this video. So Orla, I'm afraid there are just too many people and not enough flats to rent. It's as simple as that. It is no one's fault. It's not landlord's fault. It's not agents' fault. Landlords are having to put their... I had someone message me today telling me that they've rented a place. It's a big house. And the landlord has now put it up for sale because of the mortgage. And the price that the landlord wants to put the rent up to... Oh, sorry. My point is it was a situation forced by mortgage rates. So the mortgage rates are also affecting rents going up for two reasons. Number one, it's forcing some landlords to sell up because they can't afford the new mortgage rates, which is making less property. And number two, the ones who aren't selling are having to put the rents up. They're saying, if I can't get this rent, I have to sell. And that's again, there's no point in blaming an individual for that. That is just what's happening. That's the free market. It's a nightmare. I don't think it's going to last forever. I think a year or so from now, the rent situation might improve. I had a thought, which I'll probably do a separate video on, but I'll just give you 60 seconds on this thought about the whole supply and demand and house prices thing. The only thing that puts upward pressure on the overall housing market is first-time buyers. Okay? Because these are additional buyers taking out a property out of the market when they buy it. If you are selling and buying, the net effect of that on house prices is neutral because you're releasing a property to the market, increasing the supply, and you're becoming demand for a new one. So the net effect is different. Only when you sell your last property or die and your property is being sold after you're dead, only then does that increase supply back. So it's not so much to do with people who are buying and selling. This is why prices are affected more by the volume of first-time buyers than anything else. Everyone needs to understand that. Overall house prices, this is maths, you can't argue with it, right? Overall house prices are only really affected, truly, in total, by first-time buyers, because first-time buyers are the only new demand. A buyer who's buying but also selling is not new demand. That is a neutral, cancels itself out like a fraction. 2 over 2 cancels itself out. Is 1. And only people making a final sale of a property without buying another one are adding supply back to the market. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. I'll do a bigger video on that at some point. Now, Rum Shop HQ, hello, welcome. Hi Charlie, we made an offer of 6% below asking 8 days ago. It wasn't accepted or rejected. How long should we wait? Good question. I don't know. It depends on whether, is that a faster or slower moving market? Is it a bigger or smaller house? Is it high or low value? But, I mean, in that scenario, how did you make the offer? Did you make it by email or was it over the phone? I mean, and what was your reaction? Was there any initial reaction? Has it even been acknowledged? If it hasn't been acknowledged, you need to ask, has my offer been acknowledged? Please, could you acknowledge my offer? That's the first thing. Second thing is, based on the calls I'm getting from agents telling me what's happening, there are some headless chickens out there, and there's a lot of worrying going on about what's going on. It's just tumbleweed. So I wouldn't be worrying too much. I mean, it might be possible they've had another offer and they sold it and they haven't bothered to let you know. That's entirely possible. That's why you need to just ask. First step is, if it's over a week, Could you please acknowledge my offer? That was my first step. Just ask for acknowledgement. Don't know if you got the offer. Haven't heard back from you. Could you just acknowledge that you got the offer? Guys, I am running out of puff. I'm going to have to stop this soon. Unless you all say, no, don't go. We've got lots more questions. There's 500 of you. More than 500 of you, because the 488 is just on YouTube. There are people on LinkedIn and Facebook and 2 Twitter accounts and Twitch and TikTok. This is a big crowd. Any more questions? Lydia, I hope I answered your question for you. Okay. Southwell Piano asks, does viewing advised mean they're desperate to sell? No. It's just a sort of classic cliche, viewing advised. I've never really understood why agents say that. Viewing advised. Well, I wouldn't buy it without viewing it, but that's not going to make me more want to. Yeah. I literally, that's just a meaningless thought. Oh, Jackie. Okay. How can I refuse? Don't go. I will stick around. Hi, John Rocks. Thank you. Leo Lees. Okay. Mortgage rates won't get higher. Banks have priced in future base rates. Okay. Chloe P. That is a perfectly legitimate and reasonable statement to make. However, let me challenge it. To say mortgage rates won't get higher means that you have total certainty that base rates won't go higher than expected. Now, unless you can control global inflation, and unless you can control and predict accurately inflation in the economy and the recession in this country, you cannot have that certainty. Okay? Mortgage rates won't get higher if bank rate doesn't get higher, I would accept. But I do think that when buyers return to the market after prices have dropped a lot, and there's a lot more a lot more people looking for mortgages, I think you might see the rates creep up again. Azul says, can you go so I can finish what I need to do? Sorry. Oliver Berry. Okay, Oliver, that is a very valid challenge to my earlier statement. Supply and demand isn't just first-time buyers, Charlie. It's also second home buyers and investment buyers. That is true. That is true. I'm sorry. I was just imagining people that buy one home at a time, because I only deal with home buyers on this channel. As in people who don't have they're living in their own home. That's what I was talking about. But you're right. A second home buyer. So if you're buying 2 homes, yes, you are consuming inventory and therefore restricting supply. Investment buyers, yes. Holiday buyers, yes. That is true. That is true. That is a very. I totally accept that correction. Thank you. But it doesn't invalidate my earlier point. But I think that is an initial point that I should have made, and you're quite right. See, guys, I'm not an economist. Truth Speaker asks, how low will mortgage rates fall? Maybe by summer. I don't think they're going to fall any further. I think we've seen whatever falls we're going to see, because the falls that we've seen, some of them dropped about 1%, were just big competition from the big lenders going, oh God, we've got no one taking out mortgages, which is a real problem for them. You know, that's their business. If they're not writing new mortgages, they're not making money. Jongo Pock, have you seen your super chat? I did see it I saw it as it passed earlier, but I was in the middle of saying something and I then forgot about it. Thank you very much for your super chat. Much appreciated, but I can't remember what you asked me. How can I get just my super chats? Do you want to re-ask me the question? Yeah, Tony Phoney makes a suggestion about how about asking your seller to link his price to fluctuations in offers you get for your own property. Well, it just creates a chain effect, doesn't it? Guys, I'm going to have to call it soon. I clicked that by mistake. Yes, so Thomas, I did answer your question about shared ownership. The answer was no. I wouldn't recommend shared ownership. Okay, Jossie TM. This is a very frequently asked question and a very good question. I have covered it before, but it's worth covering again. This is I'm going to make this. I'll do one more question after this, which if it's at the very, very bottom, if it's the question that's asked at the point I finish this question, that'll be my last question, and then I'm going to have to wrap it up, guys. Jossie TM on YouTube asks, is it acceptable to ask for a price reduction after an offer has been accepted? It happens. I think how acceptable it is, and let's talk about sort of ethical, shall we say, depends on how near or far away from exchange you are. I don't think it's people do this. I think it's a shitty thing to do unless there's a really good reason for it, like circumstances beyond your control, right? But the people who try and drop their price on the day of exchange, that's a shitty thing to do. If it's a tactic, it's just you're probably sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you won't. It's just a horrible thing to do, right? But if you've had an offer accepted, and I know a lot of you who've bought new homes have told me this, you answered my survey. If you've had an offer accepted on a new build home and it was a while ago, and you're now really worried that the price you've accepted is too high, then depending on what the terms were in the reservation agreement when you signed it, some of them will allow you to back out, ask for your reservation back and pull out. And if they do, then you can certainly go back to those ones and say, listen, guys, we need to talk about the price and renegotiate it, because otherwise I'm pulling out. I'm not going to proceed at the price you've agreed. So you can always do it. I'm not saying that you always should, but if your gut feels that you're overpaying, if your gut feels that you're putting yourself at risk of negative equity, I would definitely do a price reduction, especially from a new home. If you're in a chain, then there are much bigger ramifications from changing your offer. If you're doing it just to save yourself a bit of money, but you don't need to do it, I think that'll probably backfire on you and you'll lose out on a transaction that you wanted. But it happens a lot, Jossie. It happens a lot. And so if you're asking because you've had an offer accepted and you're now worried you've overpaid, definitely renegotiate. I've done a video on it, how to renegotiate, in my YouTube channel. Go and find it, and I hope that helps. Okay, let me go and see if I can find the super question. Sorry, guys. There's so many. I'm scrolling. I can't see it. And I don't know if I'm going to get past it. No, I've been all the way to the top, and now can't. I'm sorry, guys. I can't find it. Maybe he's taking it back. Stamp duty isn't ending. Someone asked. Yes, so I just saw someone mentioning that land registry is saying that transaction volumes are dropping. There are. So in the first week of this year, the number of transactions agreed was the lowest that it's been for any time since back in 2008, if you exclude the weirdness of the pandemic. All right, guys. Last question. I'm going to wrap up now. Okay, Carlos, this is the last question I will ask this because this is very naughty. Your lender tells you that your property has gone up. How is this possible if house prices are going down? Oh, it depends. Gone up compared to when? Compared to when you bought it? I mean, if you bought it a few years ago, yeah. I can't answer that question without more information. And when you say that they tell you, do you mean it's their automatic, when you log in online, it gives them the automatic valuation? That doesn't mean anything. That's just the number that they have to have for their own accounting purposes. So I wouldn't. They don't actually have, unless they come around and do another valuation, they can't confirm what the value of your property is. Okay, guys, time to wrap up. So I would like to ask you, everyone. So if you are a buyer out there, remember that in order to get your offer accepted, you improve your chances of having your offer accepted if you've got a mortgage in principle in place. If you haven't got one, please talk to my guys, my magic hand-picked, independent, whole-of-market mortgage guys. Go to the link on screen. It's also in the video, in the link in the description, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. Talk to them for a while, see if you like them, if you want to like them, work with them. And if you end up taking a mortgage with them, that helps me out. I get something for that. So please do that if you haven't done that already. Because honestly, if you're a buyer out viewing without a mortgage in principle, you're much less likely to be taken seriously when you take your offer. Always have a mortgage in principle in place if you want to have your offers taken seriously. So other than that, don't forget there's an audio podcast. Please share these videos and this channel with movers, with agents. Please ask agents and tell them about Best Agent, and say to agents, hey guys, have you activated your back office account? Your Best Agent account is free. All agents need to activate their Best Agent account for a number of reasons. It's free. We send you buyers, we send you potential clients, and Best Agent is going to be a much, much, much better place for agents and movers to interact. We're going to strip out all the bullshit game playing in the industry and let serious movers find good agents much more easily. So I'm appealing to you, my YouTube and Moving Home with Charlie mover army, to make sure that agents, if they haven't already heard about it, use Best Agent. And if they say to you, oh no, we don't use it, it's free. There's no reason for them not to just log in, create their account, and be ready to respond to your leads. Carl Barkley, thank you very much. Let's get it. Hi guys. Joe Brown, Jackie, Millicent A, John Rocks. Who have we still got here on TikTok? Or someone on TikTok thinks we're going to 10% interest. No, that's not quite true. Coding 2000. Interest doesn't. The percentage of interest rate and the percentage of inflation are not directly linked financially. So interest rates don't need to go higher than inflation to bring it down. That's not true. When do I think will be a good time to buy as a first-time buyer? Question number one. I get asked more than anything else. If you're not in a hurry, be out viewing, but I'd be thinking, and the earliest I'd be thinking would be autumn this year, and then looking at what's happening at that point. Thank you, Annie. Ian, thank you very much. Scott Stroger, welcome, new name. And Ian Thompson, thank you very much. Kath Fitzgibbon, you're very welcome. Carlos Morales, you're very welcome too. All of you guys on TikTok, Coney 2012, Andrew G745, thanks for coming. I'm going to wrap it up. I've got more, but honestly, an hour and a half straight talking, really starting to feel it. Good luck, guys. Remember, buy now if you want a home, just don't overpay. Disregard the guff and make your offers by email. And if you're a seller, don't sign a long sole agency contract. Any questions about those specifics, send me a message. And to all of you who've sent me private messages that I haven't answered yet, forgive me, I will get to them. Love you all. Love and luck to everybody. All the best. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Bye, guys on TikTok. Oh, yeah, Discord. I have a Discord. Thank you, John Rocks. I've got a Discord. Just go to Discord and search for Moving Home with Charlie and you'll find it. So for those, I haven't been there. I set it up. You guys are already in there talking to each other. It's brilliant. I will be checking in the Discord soon. I've got a Discord. Didn't realize how popular it was. So I will be in there when I get a chance. Thanks for the reminder, John. Awesome. CYDY1. Cheers. Steve Stone. Thank you very much. Bye, guys. And yeah, it does help. It does help spread the word if you click the like. And if you haven't subscribed, then do subscribe. Help me get to 10,000. I think that helps things. When I get to 10,000, it helps too. I'm going. Shh, stop talking, Charlie. Go. Bye.